Welcome to the 10-Minute Car Sales Talk Podcast, where it's all about life in the car business. Telling you like it is, here's the man with the plan, Terry Cameron.
Welcome back, guys. This is Terry Cameron. I believe this is episode 18 or 19, somewhere around there. And when you add our Buzzer Beater Fridays to it, we're close to 33 or 34 total episodes. So there's a lot out there for you to listen to. Go back to the beginning and start there. Forgive me for the poor quality in those first few, but I think we're getting better each week. This week we want to talk about keeping that hopper full. You know, some of us call it a pipeline, some of us call it a hopper. I even had a chunky salesperson one time call it the crock pot. Whatever you want to call it, we have got to keep that thing full. Because if you don't, you're going to have some dead spots, and it's going to make it really hard for you to remain consistent. Imagine this. Back in the day, before PCs, laptops, and smartphones, having to keep track of your customers on 3x5 cards. That's it. And if you did have to call them, you'd have to leave a voicemail message on their answering machine. There wasn't a way to email them. There wasn't a way to text them. It was just a phone call or snail mail. Well, that was tough, but it was effective because it kept our customers' names in front of us all the time. And we used to carry books with us that had all of our top customers in there. At least the successful salespeople did this. And when things were starting to look like they were getting a little slow, we just opened that book and we made some phone calls. We talked to all of our best customers, and sure enough, before the day was over, our showroom was full and we were selling cars. We kept that hopper full. Now what I mean by that is you always have to have something working. You always have to have something working. As I mentioned in a previous episode, I once had a salesperson tell me that he's slow when he wants to be slow. It didn't matter what the market was. He wasn't market driven. He was management driven. He worked his customers. He stayed in touch with them. He did all his follow-up, and he seemed to always be busy. And again, regardless what the market was like, he still sold lots of cars. Now, what I recently witnessed happen at our dealership was a direct result of not having a hopper being full by any of my salespeople. A month or two ago, we had a great month. Everybody hit their bonus. Everybody got paid. Some of them had bigger paychecks than they've ever had before in their life. And I noticed how happy they were for the next 2 or 3 days after getting their paycheck. Really happy. Happy to the point to where they didn't think they had to do anything else but wait for the next customer. Well, let me tell you what happens. That's called complacency. And if you take a day or two off because you're happy and you just got paid, it's going to cost you a week in sales. You always have to have something working. And if you're not keeping that hopper full, if things aren't just dropping out every single day, referrals, repeat customers, previous customers, then it's going to be tough to remain consistent. Another thing that happens when we don't have that hopper full and complacency sets in. You work a really good customer. Let's say you work them on Tuesday, and you really have a real solid, hot prospect right there. But the next day, you're off. So you forget all about them. You come back in on Thursday, and the first thing you want to do is ask your sales manager what happened with your customer. Well, I hate to say this, but you know what? If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. If it wasn't important to you as the salesperson, chances are it wasn't really that important to your manager either. Besides, he or she has way too many other things going on to have to worry about your customer. That's your job. Now, I'm not telling you to not take a day off, but don't take a day off if it's going to cost you a few $100, maybe even $1,000. And if you absolutely have to, make sure it's set up properly. Make sure you have somebody that's going to be there to talk to your customer, and make sure you introduce your customer to them before you leave. It's not fair that your customer has to wait another day to get the car they want because you're off. When you make them wait, too many bad things happen. You know, remember that logic word? They get home and they realize, we really don't need this car. The payment is a little bit too high. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the one we have right now, so let's just stick to it. All of the enthusiasm is gone, and then logic sets in. Or even worse, on their way home, or the next day when you're off, they stopped by another dealership because they saw an ad on TV. just to see what was available. They weren't going to buy anything. They were loyal to you. But when they got there, they found a salesperson who wasn't off that day, and he locked them down. He bailed them in another car, or he went ahead and got them spot delivered that day. And then you come back the next day. First thing you do is call your customer, and the first words out of your mouth are, "Oh, you did." That's right, they bought a car somewhere else. They didn't want to wait. Sure, they feel bad about it, but you know what? They did not have to wait for that. You can't let that happen. You know, a guy by the name of Henry David Thoreau says, success usually comes to those who are too busy to be looking for it. That's what you have to be, is busy. You have to keep that hopper full. You always have to have names in there. Whether it's they're going to pop out tomorrow, next week, next month, 6 months or a year from now. You're going to need that sale next week, next month, 6 months or a year from now, just as bad as you need it right now. But you have to keep it full. There's always got to be customers in there that you're working, waiting for a particular car to come in, waiting for them to get into an equity position, waiting for the rebates to hit, waiting for tax time, waiting for grandma to send them that big fat birthday check. Whatever it may be, you have to keep them in that hopper, and you have to stay in touch with them. The successful people do this. And you know, if you've been in the business a while, and you're in a large enough dealership, look around. You know who it is. You know the successful ones, the ones that always have that phone on their ear, not the ones that are sitting there trying to beat another level of Candy Crush. You can see the successful salespeople and what they're doing. They're the ones following up, talking to their customers day in, day out. And their customers become loyal to them, and their customers turn into clients, and those clients refer customers to them who turn into clients. Remember that statistic that 30% of everybody you know has a family member buying a car in the next 90 days. Shame on you if you're not staying in touch with your customers. That's guaranteed sales down the road. Heck, throw their friends into the mix, and it's 50% of the people you know have a friend or family member buying a car in the next 60 to 90 days. What a waste if you don't get them. So again, we have got to keep that hopper full. Don't get complacent just because you had a great month or a great week and you want to relax a little bit. Relaxing just costs you in the long run. What I like to say is, don't worry about the beginning of the month or the end of the month. Just keep on working knowing you're going to get paid a couple times in there. I had a recent message from Matt out of Harrisburg telling me that, he thanked me. He said, "Terry, thank you because your episode, The Green Pea Slump, really hit it on the head. From what I learned from you and a little bit of help from people here at work, I turned my month around. My first 2 weeks of the month, I had 2 cars out. After listening to your podcast, I settled down and I followed the process, and the last 2 weeks, I delivered 12 cars for a total of 14 and my biggest paycheck to date." Well, congratulations, Matt. I'm glad I was able to help. But guys, everybody else needs to do this. I'm not the know-all, do-all. I'm still learning myself. But after 30 years, I have learned a few tricks of the trade, and you have to keep on doing this 100% of the time. 100% of the time. Keep the hopper full. Make sure you've got something working. Follow up, follow up, follow up. Those busy things are the things that are going to lead you to success without looking for it. This is going to be another great week. You just got to keep your head and eyes looking forward. So keep that hopper full. And don't forget to hop on over to, I guess it's called Apple Podcasts now, and leave me a 5-star rating and write a comment if you don't mind. Also, go to the 10minutesalestalk.com website and shoot me an email from there. I promise I'll do my best to respond. So again, remember, the sky's the limit. I'll see you next week.